All right.
All right.
This brings us to question or statement 14. This is Libby Road and the Sound Epistemology Podcast. This episode of the podcast covers number 14 of the Street Epistemology Survey, the survey that encourages us to better understand how we think about truth. And even though this episode is shorter, it's packed with lots of topics such as pragmatism, capitalism, ethics, and goals. Let's see how we address number 14, remembering that although we may use ideas associated with street epistemology, we're working through the survey together and not engaging in an SE interview. Enjoy this edition of the Sound Epistemology Podcast. Without an explanation for something, any answer is better than no answer. And we both strongly disagree.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this in one of our discussions where I had an employer that once told me it's better to have an answer than to say I don't know. Like, an answer is better than no answer. And I see some utility in that. I see some pragmatic advantages of that.
In an illusory capacity? Or what would be the advantage? Seeming like you know what you're talking about?
Right.
But then wouldn't it be more harmful to then be proven wrong and then, well, I don't believe anything comes out of that tit's mouth because he can't admit he's wrong or he doesn't know? So then if I can bring you back to your statement that you see some utility in it, what would be the utility?
I can see some utility with an employer telling their employee that it's better to have an answer than no answer. And this all goes back to, well, what's your goal?
Yeah.
If somebody wants to buy something and all you have is I don't know to their questions, they're not going to be very confident about your knowledge in that product. So the utility part would be having an answer just to give that illusion and giving them the confidence, because the goal is selling stuff. That's the goal.
Is to manipulate someone into parting with their money in exchange for the goods that you're selling. And so towards that end, you could see the utility.
Yeah. Welcome to
sales.
Capitalism,
right?
Possibly. Yeah. That's the goal, to make money, to sell stuff. That's your goal.
That's a pretty good statement to make about the fundamental conditions that capitalism is based upon.
Yeah.
That there's not honesty necessarily held up as a virtue. It's really about who can outsmart who and when.
Who can deceive better.
And that's a form of government that we've bought into, and I think, not surprisingly, is starting to unravel right around us with all that's going on in 2020.
That's why I think this is so important.
I
agree. To cut you off.
No.
Whenever I go to a store now and I ask a question and they say I don't know, I have a lot of respect for them.
Do you let them know that in some way?
I try to.
Do you say, I appreciate you being honest that you don't know?
Yeah. I try to let them know that what they're doing is, from my point of view, the right thing to do. Especially when they say, I don't know, but I have ways to find out. We have ways to find out.
Yeah.
And we can explore that. And like what you said, if they say, I do know, and X is the case, and I find out later that X is not the case, they're going to have way less credibility than if they had just said, you know what, I don't know. let's find out together, or I apologize for not having the answer. It's obviously something that I need to look into so that I can answer this question for people. But currently I don't have the answer. We can definitely find out. That, to me, gives them way more credibility than to just pretend that they know.
Yeah, and I think we're on the same page with that. So then my next question is this a black and white? Is there any instance, I mean, you're citing one, I would argue, does that need to be a thing?
Yeah. Am I closed about this being strongly agree or not? Is that what you're asking? No, I can't think of anything that I would be 100% certain about or 0% certain about.
Okay.
I still think I should leave myself a little bit of room to be convinced that strongly disagree is not the best answer.
Okay.
But currently, all signs point to I should strongly disagree with that. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that I would be open enough to be able to, because I think that's a pretty good way to live, not being closed-minded about anything. It might be helpful to be closed-minded about some things, like this. Without an explanation for something, any answer is better than no answer. It would be a bias and it would be a judgment call on my part to rule out the validity of someone's opinion or usefulness or place in society if I just ruled out, okay, clearly this person will not admit they do not know and they're just feeding me the next pile of shit that they can pull out of thin air. But unfortunately, it seems to be helpful to put a label on those people to not take them so seriously, because if they're going to just spout out anything in place of knowledge, then I don't think they're going to lead us in a good direction, They're not a reliable source for truth. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think some of my previous habits would rule that out as a person that I'd even want to have any interaction with, and that's not coming from a place of compassion or skillfulness. I would love to be able to lead them to a place of not being that way, of having the accountability to say, and the confidence to be able to say, well, I'm going to need to find out more about that and get back to you, and be okay with that. So I like it when people are helped to give that as an answer. I think it helps everyone because everyone can feel a bit more comfortable about that. Whereas when bullshit is flowing around the room, there's an uneasiness, and that comes back to that intuition. You can tell, as convincing as someone is, you can tell most of the time, most of us can tell when someone is giving us an answer without actually knowing.
Just to give an answer without having to say, I don't know.
Yeah, and it certainly is unfortunate that not all of us can see that from a mile away. And that's why I'd like to see it stamped out, because it's extremely irresponsible and very manipulative.
Do you see how somebody would agree with this?
Without an explanation for something. I see how some people might, some manipulative people, some people that are trying to squash a part of them that's saying, hey, do good. Like a psychopath or car salesman or, anyone in that sort of category, or capitalist.
If their motivation is to sell stuff, that might be a good thing to do. If
they might think it is,
right. Well, if the goal is to sell stuff, not if and throw out being ethical, throw out being honest. If the goal is to sell stuff, this might be a good way to live.
I don't know if I'd use the word good.
Yeah, me either.
It would be an effective way to. Yeah, no, that's all right. No.
Yeah, an effective way to achieve the goal. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
If all we're focused on is fucking goals,
yeah,
then that's an effective.
But
way.
if the goal is to believe true things and to not believe false things, then saying I don't know instead of an answer just to give one would be an effective way to achieve that goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Without an explanation for something, any answer is not better than no answer.
Right. If the goal is to believe true things.
If the goal is to be a decent human being, I would even maybe take it too. But
yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to know where you stand with someone that would give you an answer when they have no explanation. Mm-hmm. It's hard to take them seriously. It's hard to rely on them. It's hard to want to hear more from them. It's hard to be around them sometimes.
It's hard to work for somebody that expects you to give an answer when you don't have one.
It's hard to have confidence in someone that will give you an answer rather than explain to you that I don't have an answer for that, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Well, we had an answer for that, didn't we?
Yeah.